Good evening, everybody. Welcome to the F Yeah podcast. We are kicking things back off today. I apologize. We're literally late on our first show back on the relaunch. So that just, pretty much sets us up good. I think we're okay with that. Let's go ahead and get started. My name is Todd Kelly. I am the writer-creator of Project Titans and Sheldor the Defender, which Kickstarter is launching sometime next week. So be on the lookout for that. I am here with the person who just dubbed himself my co-host, just energetic as always, with a beard that is just flowing and I'm jealous of. Clearly rocking Philadelphia Eagles jersey, ready to celebrate the win.
Super Bowl bound, baby.
Super Bowl bound. Yeah, Super Bowl bound. We are here with our guest today, horror author, father of two, all-around amazing person, another beard that I'm jealous of, Mr. Evan Bond. What's going on, buddy? How are you? And it's good to see you.
You too, man. I feel like it's been a while. I'm doing great. Yeah, thanks for having me. This is great. I'm really excited to be here.
We're excited to have you, bro. So I'm going to joke around about this a little bit real quick. So we met at the first show I ever did. So first show that I was ever doing as a vendor. And Nick, you'll remember this. We didn't have a tablecloth. We didn't have
a table.
Anything, right? We had like 2 books and all these fun things.
Well,
Marty, what up? We met at the first show. So Evan was our table mate right over to our left, and I just think it's fun that when we're doing this relaunch and we're doing our first show again, that we have somebody from the first show ready to go. So just excited to have you, buddy. Thank you very much for joining us.
Yeah, thanks. That was my first show too, so it's really
was
cool.
It?
Yeah, it was mine. Yeah. Yeah, I don't know if you remember. I was super nervous. I was asking you. I was like, "How does this usually go? What do I do?" I was nervous.
You know what? I was so caught up in being nervous myself that I didn't realize you were nervous. That's where that was at.
Yeah.
So, well, Marvin, that was like your 37th show or something like that, right? Like,
if we're in an alternate universe, then you're correct. That was my 37th show, and that was my alter ego Nivram that was doing that. So that's exactly right. But no, that wasn't my. I had done Tampa. I did a couple of shows before that, but it didn't get better until I met you, Todd, Nick. And
is that how that is?
He's buttering us up.
My whole career turned around for me, and it was awesome. And I'm just glad to be here.
Well, us as well. So, we're happy you're here. I'm excited to get going. So let's kick this off real quick, and let's obviously we're here to chat with Evan about what's going on. So that was your first show, which again, very interesting to hear. I wouldn't have guessed, for what it's worth. I thought your display looked really well. I do remember that you had your youngest son with you, who is now he's like 12 now, right? Like
he's youngest is 3 now.
He's 3 now. Okay.
Yeah.
He was like a baby.
He was a baby. Yeah.
Like, how old was he at that point? Like,
he was. Let's see. I remember when Infinity Comic-Con was. But he was born in June, so I don't remember.
I think it was like a September.
Yeah, I think it was like September. Usually stuff was in September or August.
Yeah, so he was 3 or 4 months at the time. Yeah. Yeah, and we couldn't get anyone to watch him, so I had to bring him.
Baby.
Yeah, he was a baby. Yeah.
I love it, man. I thought that was really cool. And I remember, you guys had him with you, and my daughter at the time had been born that March. So, I mean, she was like 5 months, back at the house. And again, now she'll be 4 in a couple of months, and, has been running me ragged all weekend. So fun time. So if at any point, like, I just kind of look like I'm like dozing off. Yeah, you feel that. So cool. Let's jump into the writing, man. So I mean, again, you're an author, specializing in the horror genre. And I remember that first show that we worked together. Yeah, we've done a couple other shows since, but I remember people walking up and just literally like, "Hey, you got horror books?" And you're just like, "Yeah, man." And like, boom, you go right into it, and then you just hit them with a pitch, and then all of a sudden they're just like, "Boom, boom, yeah, like take it." And I just remember being like, "Oh my gosh, like this is legit. Like, I need to go do a horror comic." Like that was as soon as you did that, I was like, "Wow, I don't even like. It's not even my genre. I'm not really vibing it, but like, holy crap." So why don't you go ahead and tell us just a little bit about how you got into doing the horror genre?
Sure, yeah. I mean, ever since I was a kid, I wrote short little stories. The first story I ever wrote was a story about some kids going into a haunted house or whatever and exploring. And, it was a really terrible story. I think I called it The House. It was a really unoriginal title. But, then as I got older, I just continued to write. And then I kind of shifted in high school. My English teacher told us to write a fairy tale. That was like our assignment. And I didn't want to write a fairy tale because I was like, I'm like 16, I'm a dude, I don't want to write a fairy tale. So I asked her, can I write an action story or something? And she said, yeah. So I wrote this like police gone rogue, short story or whatever. And she like praised it in front of the entire class. And that's kind of what set me on my path to like seriously write. I was like, oh, maybe I could actually do this. So then for a while I started focusing more on like thriller and like suspense stories or whatever. And then my first book I published actually wasn't even a horror book. It was a detective series. I wrote 2 books in a detective series. And then I started to get that like itch. I was like, I kind of want to go back to the horror. I always had more fun with the dark stories. So I wrote a novella called Getaway, and it was more of a kind of a horror, kind of more of a mystery horror, I guess, or whatever. It was about a family that was camping. Someone's harassing them and trying to kill them, and they're trying to figure out who. They all start turning on each other and everything. But it was after that book that I was like, okay, I kind of want to go back to full on horror. So now I'm back on that straight horror path. But yeah, a couple turns. I almost didn't become a horror author. I almost went straight like I don't even know what you call that, thriller or suspense, whatever it was. But yeah, I'm glad I got back on the horror path because it's fun.
Do you still have a big question? Do you still have that original story you wrote?
I know I have it somewhere because I didn't throw it away. I wrote it on one of those old legal pads, the yellow one, and I have it somewhere. I've got to find it, but I must. I hope anyway. If I don't have it, I'll be really disappointed. But I'm sure it's awful. I was like 7 or 8 or something when I wrote it, but
I didn't get started writing stuff like that until I was in college because that's how I kind of got started too, writing those. I never get Miss Smith. She gave us a same kind of project, write a story and everything, and it was kind of the same thing. She would give us half of a story, and she was like, "You finish it off like that." And I took mine and I twisted all kind of ways, and she was like, "Is either something wrong with you or you got a very creative imagination." So I just told everybody I had a creative imagination, and I didn't say anything else.
There you go.
Always pick that option. I'm not gonna lie. I smiled a little bit when you said Miss Smith, so I thought about our Miss Smith from back in the day. Aye. So yeah, good times. It's interesting though. So again, I guess in the writing, so I started kind of getting into around that same age, younger, and just wanted to tell stories and had a lot of fun with it. But I didn't really actually think I could do it until let's say later in life. Whenever I kind of figured out what I wanted to do. So what made you want to get into going to do cons? Like what was kind of that thing? It was just like, all right, man, I'm gonna go rock out this convention.
Honestly, a few things really. I remember once being at Tampa Bay Comic-Con just as a patron, just walking around, and I haven't read her books yet, but there was an author that was there that I had heard about. Her name's Elise Kova, and she started kind of like me. She was an indie author, and then she hit big, and now she's out there. Well, I walked up to her booth and I grabbed her book, and I made the first mistake I made was I grabbed the book and I turned to my wife and I said, "Oh, I've got her first book," and I didn't say anything else, which is like the worst thing you could do to a creator is tell them that you have their stuff, but then don't offer your opinion. And I remember she leaned forward and looked at me, and I looked at her and I was like, "Oh, I haven't read it yet. I'm sorry." And she's like, "Oh, I was going to ask you what you thought." I'm like, "I'm sorry. I just bought it, and I just wanted to say hi." And then I told her, or I think my wife told her that, "Oh, he's an author too." And I was like, "Yeah." And I said, "But I'm not here at Comic-Con, but maybe one day." And she was like, "Oh, you'll be here one day." And then I think it was 3 years later, there I was at Comic-Con. But just seeing other authors at the event, because I never really thought books can't do well at Comic-Con, right? Like nobody's here for books, but then I see all these authors there, and I'm like, that's pretty cool. I'd love to do it. It'd be fun. before any of the cons that I did a few like local bookstore signings and stuff, and those were really fun. But I don't know, the Comic Cons are just, they're such high energy and they're just more fun. So I really wanted to get in on one of them. So
yeah, they're a bit ridiculous in a good way.
Yeah.
It's just a lot of fun. The beard game is strong with this podcast. Thank you. Thank you. That's the nicest comment. We can just retire now. We're
I know,
good.
right?
Thank
So Evan, we've had several, while we're at cons, we've had several people come up and offer their opinions on Project Titans and the other stuff that Todd's had up there. How do you take the opinions from people? Do you can take it constructively? Do you kind of, brush it off for if there's certain type of comments, things like that? What do you do with them?
yeah, I mean, I listen to the ones that I like and I try to ignore the ones I don't like, but it doesn't always work. I'll tell you, I haven't really had it so much at like a convention. I haven't had a whole lot of people come up and be like, I already read your book. I know who you are. And I think about this or whatever. But I've had like comment or reviews and stuff on like Amazon and whatnot. And I tell you, some of the ones I try, the constructive ones I try to take into account. If it's like constructive criticism, the story was slow in this point or whatever, I'll try and look at that. Okay, my next book, maybe I'll try and. But one of my favorite negative reviews I ever received was from a guy in like Ireland or something, and he specifically said, like, I live in Ireland. He rated my a book called Echoes of the Past. It's about a woman who she's running from an abusive relationship. She moves to a small town in Maine to get away from it. Someone starts killing people, and the whole town blames her. Well, this guy said, I live in Ireland, and there weren't enough guns in this story. And from what I understand about Americans, they love their guns. 1 star. And I was like, all right, fine. that's cool. I got a 1-star review because I didn't put enough guns in my American story, I guess. But so, stuff like that. I just, I let that roll off because I'm like, well, I'm sorry you didn't think there were enough guns in my story. But I try the constructive ones. If they offer constructive criticism, I will, I'll read it and take it into account. But I did have, I want to say it was at Tampa Bay Comic-Con in 2021 that we did. Someone bought one of my books. She came back the next day and she said that she was already like halfway through with it. And she's like, it was so good, I couldn't put it down, which like made my entire weekend because she came back to tell me just how much she loved it. So that was cool.
Was that one of the last couple of years? Because I think I remember that.
That was at the last.
I think I remember that one.
Whichever one it was at Tampa Bay Comic-Con, which I think I did in 2021 now. I can't remember. These years are all blending together.
Yeah, I got nothing. But yeah, I think that was when we were right next to you because I think it was right around the same time that we had somebody come back to ours and he bought it on Friday and came back on Saturday and tried to make a pitch to like fix our book. Like
I remember that. So
was that the font guy?
Yeah. So like for me, I remember as soon as Evan was like, I take it constructive. I'm thinking like, I don't.
It depends on the comment. If it's a constructive comment, but if it's like, I think you should do it this way. I'm like, I think you should go write your own book.
Yeah. It really depends who it is and how they come at me. But if it's at a con, it's anything less than like, hey, I really enjoyed it, or stuff along those lines. Like if they're coming at it like, I'm not in the right mindset. Let's just put it that way.
That's true. Yeah, at a con it would be so different. You're not there for the feedback like that. Hey, let me tell you how to fix your book. I'm here to sell, not the.
I'm basically in 2 places at a con. We're either not selling enough and I'm focused on trying to sell more, or we are selling our tails off and I'm just in such a happy place that if you bring me any type of negativity, like it's just not happening.
Yeah.
Well, the only time that would be acceptable, I mean, if you're like an already published writer and you're great, then you could come back and give me some criticism like that. But if you like just that guy over there,
yeah,
like who are you to tell me something like that? I mean, but you get all kinds of those Comic-Cons, man.
Yeah,
I met Todd. That's where I met Todd.
It's where we all met.
Yeah, it is.
It's funny because you gave me constructive feedback at a Comic-Con with like my lettering, and that was really helpful. So, but again, like you're right. It does depend who it's coming from. So if it's another vendor or something like that, like I may be open to it. But just in general, it's probably not going to be. I mean, I'll be nice about it. Like I'll be like really, you'll think it's okay. But when I'm walking back and looking at Nick, Nick's going to know, like, no, talk to him. So.
He's not.
Oh,
Well, before we move on to the next question, we're going to take a second and shout out our sponsor, Grey Ghost Comics in Tifton, Georgia. Andrew and Scott, absolutely awesome. Yeah, they gave us the great logo. So great guys. They're going to be partnering with us for the Kickstarter. They're going to be Scott's going to be doing one of the variant covers for the Kickstarter, and we're going to be partnering with them all month. They're going to be our sponsor for the podcast. So go check them out. They do lives every week or so where they're selling their books, and I mean, again, just absolutely great LCS. So if you get an opportunity in Tifton, Georgia, or just ordering through them online, go ahead and do it. We'll talk about them probably a couple more times. But yeah, so that's it for our first sponsor break. Go check out Grey Ghost Comics. All right, Marvin, you've been quiet, buddy. What you got?
I'm just amazed at your wisdom and your word flow. It's awesome.
Making it up as I go, bro.
That's why he's a writer.
He's a writer. He's writing out the script as we go. No, but I do have a question for you. With doing your horror and stuff, where do you get your ideas from? I mean, is it like based off of real people? Because I'm doing a horror book right now myself called Beyond the Red Door, and it is based off of some of the things that I witnessed as a child. And where do you get your ideas from?
Yeah, a little bit of everywhere. A lot of my books have some stuff that I personally went through as a kid, or maybe something that happened to a family member of mine, or inspired just by maybe watching a show or a movie that kind of clicked an idea. Like I can tell you, Getaway, the book about the family that went on a camping trip. I wrote that where my wife's family took us on a cabin camping trip, and as we got there, I pulled my laptop open and I was like, I've got a great idea for a story about people on a camping trip, and one of them starts murdering everybody. And so I just started writing it on that trip. And and what's really funny is I took a picture of the cabin. I sent it to my graphic artist. I said, hey, I want to incorporate on the cover the actual cabin we stayed in. Didn't tell anyone that I did that. And so when my in-laws saw the cabin on the front of the cover, they were like, okay, that's creepy. And I was like, well, but yeah, I mean, I kind of get it from anywhere. Just there's some stuff in there. I mean, I think most writers do that. They pull in some realism to their characters or into their storylines.
So I have two comments. So first, in that, when you got inspired, were you the murderer? Like, were you wanting to kill people?
Yes. Tell on yourself. Tell everybody you are a murderer. Part-time. You're a part-time murderer.
I don't think I can. I don't think I can disclose that information.
Yeah,
actually,
I would.
No. What happened was, so I was hanging out with her brother and my wife, and we're all just walking around the cabin. There was this carport in the back, and it was just really creepy. And I just made a mention to my brother-in-law, and I was like, well, that's where the serial killer is, right? Like that, it looks so creepy. And then I was like, man, that would actually be a really cool story if there's, and then the plot just started popping up in my head, and I was like, I'm gonna go write it. But
so after that, did they take you on any more camping trips?
Well, they invited more people along to the next one, so I don't know. Maybe they didn't trust
more
me.
witnesses. More witnesses.
So the other one I have, other question is actually for Marvin. Marvin, I've seen the artwork for Beyond the Red Door, buddy. I'm a little concerned that you've had early inspiration. Like, what have you seen that inspired that?
Well, what I have seen, I take a lot of my stuff from voodoo lore. Mm-hmm. You know what I'm saying? The Caribbean voodoo lore, Haitian voodoo lore. I mean, because it's different. It's voodoo, and and it's different versions of stuff they have and everything like that. So most of mine come from like the Haitian voodoo and the Laos and everything and stuff like that. And I just blended that with a little bit of my creativity, but I don't try to disrespect where I got the information from. I try to use it as originally as possible, because you will get people that, hey, that's not right. That's not how it's done. And I mean, I don't want to put any voodoo spirits against me. I want everybody to be down with me. Voodoo, you do, So I get it from there, and then I just brought the dolls in and stuff, and made those like doorways into our world. And the little girl, baby doll, she controls them. She's like the maestro. So don't mess with that little girl, or she will get you.
Fair. All right, I'm good. I just know that if any point, if a character pops up in either of your books that looks like me and they get offed, that I pissed you guys off, and I'm sorry.
No, we wouldn't do that. It would be a camping trip. It wouldn't be voodoo. We would call that story the ride. That's all. We're all riding together, and then all of a sudden, people just start disappearing out the car. Like, what the hell is Todd?
So any name, image, and likenesses are purely fiction. There's no.
And if Todd pops up missing, I had nothing to do with it. I was in Fort Myers. Yeah, so I got nothing to do with it.
So if Marvin or Evan ever invite us to go anywhere at a con, we're gonna drive ourselves.
Wow.
That's what
also stay in the daylight, stay in the bright light.
Bright light, drive yourselves. Got it.
So Evan, being a horror author, are you a fan of horror movies and stuff as well, or is it just strictly to the book side of it?
No, I'm probably more of a horror watcher than I am a horror reader. I read like Stephen King and stuff, but I love horror movies. They're great. Yeah.
My man. So what's your favorite movie / series?
Oh man, that's tough.
I'm a big horror movie buff myself. So
yeah, there's so many. I don't know if I can pick one. I mean, I gotta say, Alien is one of my favorite, all time favorite ones. The Thing. I don't know if you guys have seen The Strangers, but that was a really good. The first one is really good.
That's a messed up movie. That's a messed up movie.
And then actually we just watched that new movie Smile a few weeks ago.
I haven't seen that yet.
It was pretty creepy. It unsettled me at times. That's how bad it was. So it was good though. I liked it. But yeah, no, I love horror movies. Yeah, we try and watch tons of horror movies all the time. So
good. So I don't have probably the last good scary movie I saw. It's been a long time, but it's probably it was the
Superman versus Batman.
No, that's a whole nother conversation. No, it was the Conjuring universe. Like those movies have been.
Oh yeah,
that's up in the top of some of my favorite. La Llorona and kind of that whole The Nun and kind of that whole universe.
That nun is creepy, man.
Yeah.
Good.
Yeah.
Good. I will say though, so my daughter's name is Annabelle, and she'll be 4 soon. So this is like my last year to try to dress her up like the doll for Halloween. So
that's great.
That's what I'm doing.
I've been waiting for you to do that. I'm ready.
Here's the deal though, it's gonna scare me. Like that's the problem. Like it's. So yeah, I don't know, man. Maybe this year, I'll let her be like Bluey one night, and then dress her up like Annabelle like the other night.
Well, remember, it's not the doll; it's the demon controlling Annabelle. So the doll is innocent. It's a very nice porcelain doll. Very innocent.
The demon's already got her, so that's already happened. But
I sent you the technique to put her to sleep on the group chat.
She'd hit me with that. No. In fact, Evan,
with that stone cold stunner, she'd go right to sleep, man. I promise.
Yeah, she's more likely to hit me with that. I don't know what it is about kids, but they swing their head around like it's a weapon.
Oh God,
you're right. I've gotten so many near black eyes, almost broken noses just from her head. Even when she's trying to give you a hug or trying to give you a kiss, you gotta be super careful. And what was it? Oh, today, she was playing with a pin. She was playing with a pin and then randomly tackled me and got me right here. And I'm just I was that close to losing my eye. Cool. had to have that conversation super quick. Like, we don't play with pins like that. So yeah, kids are fun and dangerous and just adorable. So
I don't know what you're talking about. My child is 18, is a grown man. So I don't. What is the child exactly? I don't know what you're talking about.
I got nothing, bro. I just live. I live in the exact moment. I can't tell you the past. I can't tell you what's happening in the future. I know how to survive my current child as she is right now. I don't remember anything.
So, in other words, what you're telling us, you're being abused at home, and this is your cry for help. Okay, go ahead.
Yeah,
we're listening.
Blink twice if
We're
you're
here for
in
you.
danger.
We're here for you, Todd.
My almost 4-year-old is abusing us. Flat out, guaranteed, it's happening. So
at the end of the podcast, you're gonna hold up a sign that says "Help me," and then,
our child is mean. Yes.
and put on that Annabelle attacking us.
She might just you see it pop up, right? No. So we're into the dad stuff. No. We're into the dad stuff for a second. And I've been watching Vampirina all day. So Evan, you're father of two. What is it? On the other side of the horror genre, what type of kid shows are you having to watch over and over and over and over?
They're probably on their 40th run of Bluey right now.
I mean, that's solid though.
Yeah, you know what? I actually, out of all the kid shows that exist, Bluey is the one that does not irritate me. So I'm cool with it. It's actually not a bad show. It's not bad.
I saw a meme where it was basically Bluey is actually there to train parents. It's actually teaching you, not the kid. It's just a kid show that actually teaches the parent.
Yeah, I could see that actually. Yeah. Yeah, that's what all of the episodes seem to be about, is the parents learning a lesson, not the kids. So, yeah.
We missed the Bluey phase. Haley was grown up just past the Bluey phase. We got stuck with the what was the Mickey Mouse Clubhouse?
Oh God!
And
they watched that at first. I couldn't take it.
The Mickey Mouse Clubhouse and Doc McStuffins and.
No Baby Shark. No Baby Shark.
Baby Shark did not last too long. We did get a couple, but
you got a couple.
Yeah, it was a lot of Bubble Guppies was a big one. That if you haven't seen that,
that saved my soul.
That's something. That song never gets out of your head.
All right.
I could still probably recite it if I needed to. It's not happening.
So Nick will be holding up a sign at the end of the show saying that he's being tortured by bubble guppies at the end of the show. Gotcha.
Oh yeah, she bought that episode.
Yeah.
Yeah. Oh man, I forgot about that. I think that might have been my fault. I don't remember how, but I think I remember that was one of those things I was like, I'm gonna take that to my grave. Yeah, I remember that. Yeah, that was horrible.
Now it's out there, so.
That's his life. My brother is in the comments and just said that he just started his son on Attack on Titan. And Brett, I love you. I don't know if I'm old enough to watch Attack on Titan, but love you, buddy.
So, Mr. Evan, can I ask you another horror question?
Absolutely, yeah.
I know, because when I do my stuff, when you write your stories, how do you? How can I say it? How do you write them out? Does it play in your head? Do you see it like a movie playing out, or is you following it script by script, line by line, or do you see it already and then you just put out? What is your method to creating your story, and how do you put it all together?
Yeah. So typically, I kind of have a rough estimate of where the story is going to go, but I don't really have. I do more I think they call it pantsing over plotting. I don't typically plot the full story. I know how it's going to start. I kind of know what's going to happen in the middle. Usually I know where I want it to end. And then, it just kind of plays out like a movie. As when I sit down and write, I'm just kind of visualizing what's going on. And then I just kind of interpret what I'm seeing onto paper. But I don't really plot out every little thing, because I like to save room for creativity. And I want to let the plot drive, where it wants to go. And then if it doesn't make sense, that's why editing exists. Go back and make it all make sense. But I just kind of let it go where it wants to go.
Okay.
How
So
often? How often does it? I guess how often do you change where? So like you write something, you know where it wants to go. You write something, go back and read it, it's like, no, I want to do this better. So and change it and go with a different direction. How often does that happen?
Oh yeah, a lot. Actually, this book that I'm writing now, it's a sequel to a book I published last year. I'm like 3 or 4 chapters in, and then I decided I wanted to change the location. I wanted to change the actual setting in that location, and I wanted to change like some character stuff up. So I stopped and I went back and I had to start. I just read through the whole story, everything that I've written so far, and had to tweak. Like I had to change things from. I was moving it from like an RV to a cabin. So every time I said the word RV, I had to put the word cabin in there, and then I had to make sure that I described a cabin and not an RV. And then it was a lot of work, but yeah, it happens all the time. Luckily, that happened at like chapter 4 and not the end of the book. It would have been a lot more work, but yeah, all the time. Yeah, all the time it happens.
So do you see that as a setback when you go in there, when you go in there and change stuff? Like you're 4 chapters in, do you see that as a setback, or do you see that as like you're making the story better and more cohesive?
Oh yeah, no, I definitely see it as making the story better. That I was actually more excited when I was writing the book and I liked where it was going. But then this idea, I was like, I kind of want to change it to. I changed it. It was going to be set in Colorado, but then I changed it to Tennessee because I've actually never been to Colorado. And I got this idea to set it in a place I've actually been to so I could describe it better. And that kind of made me a little bit more excited. So going back, it's not really a setback in my eyes because I feel like I'm making the story stronger. I'm able to describe it better and do more with it. So I definitely see it as more of a positive.
Okay.
Yeah, I've been doing all the chats and everything like that, and yeah, I would agree. Whenever you kind of make those changes and go back, like I don't know, something about it, like you're just kind of a little more passionate about it. Like I don't think it's always a setback. I think sometimes it's just like, all right, cool. Like I leveled it up and I'm ready to go rock it out. That being said, sometimes I'm like, oh crap, it's gonna be a lot of work. That's where I'm just like, oh, this is okay, cool. I got this. Like, it's gonna be all right. It's worth it. It's gonna be good. So yeah, I think it's just one of those things where like it's kind of a necessary evil to get the best product out there.
Yeah.
But on the other side of that, there's kind of that thing where you can keep reworking it, and I think at a certain point you just got to get it done.
Yeah.
And so the old saying was just always done is best. So I think there's a happy medium in there.
Yeah. That's what I try to do. I try and keep pushing forward, even if I don't like where it's going, or I don't like what I've written, because you can always go back and edit. You can't edit a blank page or a blank book, so you have to just push forward at some point. So there are times where I'll go back and I'll change stuff because I got a better idea. But if I'm just kind of like, I don't really like how I started this off, I feel like I could do something better, I'll just ignore that, push forward, get to the end, and then go back and figure out what I want to change, because you can edit, but you just got to get the story done so you can see where the full story is going and then go from there.
Oh yeah, I've skipped entire like scenes and chapters and just kind of moved forward and then just went back and had a better feel of it because I was more excited. Like, okay, cool, I've already written this. Because sometimes you're just excited where you're just like, man, I want to write this. Like, I want to get to this. And by going ahead and moving forward and going ahead and just getting to it, you don't skip any of the important stuff.
Right.
Miss out on any details. So I like that. Now you and I, we joked around one time. You were doing one of your books, one of your more recent ones, which we're going to kind of get into each of them in a minute. But you had talked a little bit about potentially wanting to do like some type of comic or putting some more art into it. Is that something that you ever did, or you're still looking into?
No, I haven't done it yet, but it was the book that I published last year called After Death. It follows he's a ghost. He's a bounty hunter for death. He goes out and he reaps wandering spirits that like hurt the living and everything. And I had a friend tell me, he was like, this would make a really good comic book. And I was like, that would be cool. I want to do that. No idea how to make a comic book at all. So one day I would like to try and, somehow turn this character into a comic series or something. I think that'd be really fun. But yeah, I definitely want to. I think his world, his stories, I think they would make great comic books. But
yeah. Why don't you go ahead and tell us a little bit about that one?
Sure. So the story follows Jeffrey Rains. Like I said, he's a ghost. He's a bounty hunter for death. He's what's called a hellhound. She sends her hunters, her hellhounds, out to reap spirits that hurt the living. And then one day he's sent on an impossible task. He's meant to reap one of the living because he's found a way to cheat death and go past his expiration date. And in doing so, he's hurting other spirits. He's actually reaping spirits and killing them to get what he wants. So she sends him after one of the living, and it's not something he can't hurt the living as his. So he has to figure out how to bring him down. So yeah. That's all book one. I'm currently writing book 2 in that series right now. So,
how many books do you plan? How many books do you plan for that one? Is it 2? 3?
I don't know exactly how many. I'm kind of hoping to just write as many as I possibly can because I do have like an idea for like this full overarching story that I want to tell, but I also kind of want to do like, just as many as I can, just a random story about him and what he's doing or whatever. I'd love to do as many as I possibly could, but I think realistically anywhere from 5 to 7 is kind of like the number I've settled on for that I hope I can get to. So we'll see. Yeah, each story, or at least so far, the first story, it features this mythical creature that this guy, Dominic is his name, the villain. He pairs up with this mythical creature that's able to absorb souls. It like eats the spirits, and it's able to like generate to him, which is helping him or whatever. It's a real mythical creature from like Ireland, I think, or I forget where. It's called like a slough or something like that, and it's really terrifying. It's a really creepy mythological creature. So I'm kind of keeping on that. Book 2 is going to be featuring the Wendigo, if you've ever heard. That's going to be I'm doing that in book 2. So that's kind of like an accidental theme. Like now every book is going to have like a new monster that pops up in it. So yeah, it's fun. I'm really enjoying it.
And then what's the first one called again?
First one's called After Death.
After Death?
Yeah.
All right. Sorry.
So would you be dipping into all other different kinds of mythological creatures of different cultures, or you just got it set on one kind of culture?
Yeah, no, I'm trying to make it kind of all of them, because in his world, in Jeffrey's world, those mythical creatures like werewolves and vampires, none of them are real. They're all just misidentified, people that have been face-to-face encounters with other types of spirits. There's like different kinds of spirits and all that. But then there's also these like super powered spirits that are like locked away, like death locked them away in these like behind these gates, and someone is slowly opening these gates and letting them out. So I want it to be like just mythical creatures from many different backgrounds and everything. So yeah, because the slough, like I said, is from like European descent. The Wendigo is more of a Native American. So I'm just like I just try and find the creepiest mythological creatures I can find, and then try and make my story work around it. So
okay, that's great. I like that. I like that whole concept. That's way different.
Yeah, it's been fun.
So you said the Getaway was kind of the camping story.
Yeah.
I know you've also got some of your first ones I think I remember was Echoes of the Past and stuff like that. Tell us about some of the other ones.
Yeah, sure. So yeah, Echoes of the Past was my first like real step into like psychological thriller, suspense, pushing more towards the horror, because that follows a woman who's she's running from an abusive relationship. She takes her small young 9-year-old daughter to a small town to get away from it, to hide, and then someone starts killing people in town, and of course everyone blames her. So she's quick to try and leave, but the town wants justice, so they take matters into their own hands, and they're trying to hunt her down and keep her from leaving town because mob justice and all that. And they'll do anything, even hurting her young daughter. So it's just a survival story about her just trying to escape this like crazy town.
I don't know why, but it made me think of Niceville for some reason. I don't know. As soon as she like said crazy, like trying to escape a crazy town, I'm like, all right, where Nick and I are from. Boom, done. Love you guys. I really, it's no. So what? Switching gears real quick. What shows do you got coming up? We talked about cons earlier, man. You got anything coming up this year?
I haven't booked anything this year, actually. I've got a couple of things that I know that are coming, but I just haven't jumped on it. There's a book fair that comes to Venice in Florida every year. I got an email about that. I just haven't jumped on it. I want to do Tampa Bay Comic-Con again. But yeah, I haven't booked any actual shows yet, and I'm sure they're going to be sold out by the time I do because I'm being lazy. So
I mean, you got to do it when you are happy for it. But I would say one of the ones I know Ocala still has tables, and that's in September. Tampa, I don't remember if they still do. And then I think if you end up coming up towards Tallahassee, Infinity Con in June July is still has some tables, and then I think Dragon Con is open right now, taking submissions. So there's a few. There's some stuff out there.
yeah, I did last year. I did Spooky Empire, which is a horror themed convention, and that was I didn't buy a table there because tables are like $500 for like a 3-foot table, and it's nuts. Yeah, it's I've heard it's a really good show to be at, but it's also pretty expensive to go. But I got invited. I know another author who put me in touch with someone who runs the panels there, and they invited me to be one of the panelists at Spooky Empire, and they had a whole booth set up with all their authors, so I was able to put my books there at their table, and then I was there all weekend doing panels, which was so much fun. It was my first time doing any like major panels, so I had a lot of fun with that.
What's your craziest convention story?
Say what now?
What's your craziest convention story so far?
I don't know. I really haven't anything crazy happen yet. I mean, Tampa Bay Comic-Con. I'm sure it's coming. Yeah. My first time at Tampa Bay Comic-Con was a lot of fun. I think I did the best there that I've ever done. I sold the most books, met the most people. Yeah, it was a lot of fun, but nothing super crazy really happened there. It was pretty chill. Yeah, I'm sure I'm overdue for something to happen to me at one of these events now, but
yeah, it'll happen. It'll come. I promise you. I promise you, it will come, and you will not be ready for it, and you'll look at the person probably be like, "What?" But it'll happen.
Yeah. I mean, I've had you always get I'm sure you guys get this too, where you always got someone who comes up to your booth and goes, "Oh, I'm a writer too," and they you chat about that kind of stuff, and so yeah, I always get that, but nothing crazy.
We had this most recent Tampa Bay Comic-Con. It was somebody, and they were going through, and they were pitching their book to everybody. And so they would stand in front of you, and they had their book coming out, and it was a Kickstarter coming out. And they would sit in front of you, and I mean, not take any of the social cues, just whatever, man. They were pitching you their book, and they were just going. And I mean, they were talking to me for solid 20 minutes, and I was helping people around them. They were just standing right in the middle of my booth, just talking. And I was just like, I mean, whatever. It makes it look like I have a line. So then I was just letting them talk, and then I would just go and talk to other people. And then we had the one, Nick, which I mean, this one always stood out to me, was the one in Savannah. Where, here we are, we're selling Project Titans, and we're talking about it and everything. And the guy's just like, okay, that's cool. Have you heard about Demon Slayer? And I'm just like, yeah, it's on Netflix. And he's like, okay, what do you know about it? And I'm like, I don't know much. He's like, all right, are you ready? And I mean, he just goes into it. And 3 hours later, I was a Demon Slayer expert. And yeah, I mean, and then he would keep coming back. Every time cosplay would walk by that was from Demon Slayer, he'd be like, hey, that's from Demon Slayer. And I'm just like, okay, cool, man. Fantastic. It's awesome. And the funny part is, a little bit later, I actually went and watched the anime, or at least some of the anime, and I really liked it. And I was like, crap, he was kind of right. Pretty good.
So I don't have a crazy story, but I did just think of one from the first convention that we actually met. I don't know if you remember, but the Infinity Con was giving out those the pixel art light things to everybody that came in. So there were people walking by with stacks of them. Mm-hmm. And I remember your genius ploy was you had bags, and you were asking people as they walked by, hey, would you like a bag? And I started using that at future cons. I had brought my own bags, and man, it works. You want a bag for that? And they come over, and then you're like, oh, also check this book out. And it just, So every single time I make a sale from that, I always turn to my wife and I go, I got that from Todd Kelly. Man. It works.
You know what? It worked at that show. It's worked at every show since. I'll tell you this: I think we had those. No, we didn't have the orange bags yet. So that was before we had the orange bags, Nick.
We had
like
Walmart and Publix bags.
Yeah. So a little bit after that, Evan, we came across, like, we were basically gifted like these, like, God, it was like 1,500 like these orange bags. And they were just bright orange. And man, we put that like method to the test at some shows. And I mean, we would purposely like give out like 10 or 12 bags just so everybody's walking around with our orange bag. And then we would just put our orange bag on the table and people would see that somebody already had the bag and they would come and buy from us. And I mean, man, it was just going. And then to the point where we finally, we've completely sold out of the bags. And I haven't gone back and ordered more of them. But it's funny because like, the trick works. So for anybody who's ever going and doing shows, one of the things that a lot of people don't offer are bags. And so, you know, a lot of the shows will give stuff away. So you're already carrying things around. So if you have bags that you can give, or if you sell something, people will get a bag. A lot of times they'll go for it. So it's a good way to get people to your table, and it's a good way to get to talk to them. And it ends up working a lot. So if you ever see us at a show and we're doing it, yeah, it works.
I think it's really like people really like that personal connection, even though you're just asking, do you want a bag? Yeah. It brings them to the booth. I mean, I remember at I can't remember the con now, but there was this guy walking around. He had the shirt on that was the pattern from The Shining, the carpet. Mm-hmm. And he was just walking by, and I just remember being like, hey, man, I love your shirt. And he was like, oh, thanks. He came over, he asked me about my books and whatever. And he's like, oh, that's cool. And then he walked away. And then like an hour later, he circled back and he came back and he goes, okay, I think I'll take one of your books. And I was like, all right. And I don't think that would have happened had I not complimented his shirt. So I think just that little bit of interaction just goes a long way, rather than, you know, because I don't know about you guys, but I'm really like super introverted. So I'm like walking these booths and someone's like, hey, you want to take a look at this? I'm like, no, please, I don't want to talk to you. I don't like talking to people. But yeah.
Yeah, I don't really have that one. I admit I'm the guy that's kind of more like the guy from the mall that's like in the middle, like trying to get everybody to the booth. Like that's kind of me. Like I'm just like the whole time, hey, what's going on? Yeah, love this, love that. And just trying to see if I can get anybody, you know, and a lot of it's genuine too, though. Like I'll be telling them stuff that I really do like and I really do enjoy. So it's usually just me being me. And then a lot of times it'll actually just, you know, they'll come over to the booth, they'll ask, you know, we'll just kind of go from there. So, I mean, I think but I get you. But no, I'm not that guy. Usually somebody at the con, if they're like, hey, have you heard about this? I'm like, hey, look, man, if you spoke up, I'm going to go listen to you. Like, I'm going to go, you know, give you, and again, like sometimes for me, like it's not even whether or not I even want to try their product. It's just like, how well did they pitch it to me? Like if it's a really good pitch, like I'll go for it. Like I'll give it a try. So
I think
my advice to you guys is don't use candy because it sounds creepy when you say, hey kid, you want some candy? And it's not a good thing to do. I did that at Tampa, and you know, it sounded creepy every time I said it. So I don't use candy. Bags are good, candy's bad. Don't ask little kids, do they want candy? So don't do that.
Especially if you're trying to push horror, you know, content.
I say, yeah, that's how horror movies start.
Yeah.
I know. Hey kid, want some candy? You know, they take off running from the table. So don't do candy.
Come to my white paneled van.
So yeah, I got a white panel van. You want to help me go look for my puppy next? So, no, that's okay. But I got candy. So yeah, come to my table. But it doesn't work. Or you get greedy people that stand there and talk to you. And then they'll like take 2 or 3 of your candies. You'll be like, you know, it's one per person. Greedy.
You just gotta like slowly slide the bowl back.
Exactly. I did that before. I was like, yeah, you know, it's for the kids, right? It's just one for the kids, you know. But yeah, it got creepy in the end. I was like, you want some candy? The kids look at me and I'm like, okay, strange man asking a small child if they want candy in a public place. So no, don't do the candy.
Yeah. So one of the comments, Evan wants to know how many signings you've done.
Oh man, I'd have to think about it. I more than 12, but I'd have to really sit down and think about it because I've done a few at like some local bookstores. That's why I said that's where I started, was like local bookstores. Probably done like 6 or 7 of those when I started. I can't remember, but I've done a few, like at least a dozen or two. But by no means am I an expert at it. You know, I'm still nervous every time. As soon as those doors open or as soon as the first person walks up, always nervous. But I think working them kind of breaks you out of it a little bit. I'm definitely better now than I was then. I'm not as shy like I used to. I remember when people used to walk up to my booth or something, my first show, they'd walk up and sometimes they'd pick up a book and I would just be like, hey, how you doing? And they wouldn't say anything. They're sitting there reading my book and I'm politely waiting for them to say, I would like to buy your book, please. I don't say a word to them. Then they walk away and I'm like, why can't I sell books? Well, that's why, I'm not talking. Yeah. Now, I'm a lot better at talking to people. But yeah, I've done quite a few, enough to feel more comfortable with it because I'm not a public speaking kind of person. So
going into that, not being a public speaking person, how'd the panel go? Like, what was, was that kind of something that was nerve wracking for you, or are you just like, screw it, I'm going for it?
Because I was on a panel with other people, I think that kind of took the fear away because I'm not alone. I don't like being alone up on stage. I did at a local library. I did like a speaking event. I was supposed to talk about my writing journey for like a 45-minute block of time. And I was like, how am I going to talk about myself for 45 minutes? I really want to talk about myself for 2 minutes. So, but being on a panel with other authors and other creators and everything, and I think that helps because they say something and then you can kind of jump off what they said. So there's a lot less nerves and not every single person is looking at me the whole time. So helps.
I don't know. When we did our panel, those 45 minutes went by like that. I mean, we was talking, and the next thing you know, the guy walked by. I was like, "You got 10 minutes," and I'm like, "Whoa, we just started."
You got the wrap it up symbol.
Yeah, you got to wrap it up. Let's get us the spinning finger. Like, hey, wrap it up. But I think our panel went pretty good though. But I agree with you though. Doing the panels can be kind of nerve-wracking, and even when you're sitting there and you're doing the picture stuff at your table as well too. I've gotten yelled at by certain people who come with me to Comic-Cons. I'm not going to say their name because they're somewhere in my house right now, and I'm not going to say nothing about them. But they'll be like, "You need to make more eye contact." And when people come up to table, talk to them. So those people are right in a way, but I'm not going to say it to their face. But it is good to make the eye contact. It is, if you're trying to sell something, you got to talk to the people and stuff. And but I still think that nervousness you have in your stomach, that still gives you that, I don't know, it gives you like that motivation to like say something, do something. And once you get past it, it's like you be on fire. Then you turn to like Todd. Next thing you know, you're selling everything. The tablecloth, you're selling your table. Chairs that people are sitting in and stuff. You're selling other people comic books. And then, you only pop it. Tell them, Todd.
Like, I only did the other people books once. I was sold out of stuff. No, I get it though. It's funny though too, because like again, we've done quite a few shows at this point, and Nick will tell you, like, I mean, I'm like, until I wouldn't call it nervous at this point, but until we make our first sale, I'm almost angry. Like I'm almost kind of like just like pissed off until we make our first sale, and then at that point, like I'm like, oh, okay, cool. Like I at least can pay for parking now. Like we're good. Like let's go rock this out and have fun or whatever. But I don't think I'm actually having like fun until I make the first sale. But as soon as we make the first sale at that point, like I'm just like, all right, cool. Let's go have fun with it. Let's go kick butt. I've had a couple where I can definitely tell that like my mood affects how well we do. Like there's definitely been one show where I know for a fact, like I was in a horrible mood on the Sunday, and we went from selling like gangbusters on Saturday, and then Sunday, like all of a sudden we weren't selling. And I was kind of like putting on like, oh, okay, it's just the Sunday crowd. It's the Sunday crowd. It had nothing to do with the Sunday crowd. I was just in a horrible mood. I wasn't making great eye contact. I wasn't, like chatting with people. Like I just wasn't doing a lot of things that I normally did to like get them to the table. And it wasn't working. So I very quickly from that show learned like, you check it all at the door. You go in, you're at a Comic-Con, and you make it an experience for whoever's out there.
Right.
Oh, Marvin, I don't know if you see the comment section, but there's a right in a way. Shake my head.
What?
I'm yeah, about that. So I'm gonna fix this one for you. Got it? Ready?
Evan, so tell us, have you met any famous people doing at any of these either convention signings, anything like that?
Yeah, actually, I did several years ago. I did it was called the Festival of Reading in St. Pete, and R.L. Stein was there, and I was like, "That's cool." So I had to have someone. I had to have my wife watch my booth. I was like, "Well, actually, I'm sorry." She went and waited in line for me because there was a huge line for this guy. So she went and waited in this like hour-long line, and then she texted me when she's like, "I'm next," and I was like, "Okay." So I like told the guy next to me, I was like, "I'll be right back," and I ran across the courtyard and got R.L. Stein's signature. And then I also met his name's Tim Jacobus. He does the art for the Goosebumps books. Or
Yeah, we met him.
You met him at Tampa.
Yeah, he was at Tampa Bay.
Yeah.
I went and I brought the Goosebumps book that R.L. Stein signed, brought it to him. So now I've got R.L. Stein and Tim Jacobus both have signed that. Timothy Zahn, which is the Star Wars author, he was at I think I spent too much money buying his books at that convention, but
he was cool.
He was really cool. Yeah. And then I've met some celebrities I've gone and met and gotten their autograph and stuff. But yeah, I think I don't know why, but R.L. Stein really stands out to me. That was a really cool one. So
that's a cool one. I'm jealous of that one because I have a pretty good collection of Goosebumps books sitting in my garage right now.
Yeah, so. that's what. These or can I right here? That's there. Those
it's
are all
opposite
my.
Of the camera.
Yeah, and this is hard to do. There, right there. That's all my Goosebumps books, with the signature on top. So
on all of them. Oh, this just the one.
Just I had Tim Jacobus sign a poster and I put that on top of them.
Oh, nice.
More money I spent at Tampa Bay Comic-Con than I probably should have.
I mean,
all good. Here's my theory.
As long as you make it back, right?
Yeah, I was gonna say if we were just there, like we're there as vendors, right? So it is what it is. But we would have been there as like fans, so we would have been spending money, like there as fans. So my theory is at least being there as vendors, like we have an opportunity to recoup some of the money, whereas we would not have had any opportunity to recoup.
Yeah.
The other way. So that's my logic with going.
Yeah, it works. Yeah.
Yeah. So no, it's funny you mentioned that one though. So Nick, as soon as you asked that question in my head, I just remember us running into Dog the Bounty Hunter at Wawa. That's the one I always think about is Dog the Bounty Hunter at Wawa. They were at Fanboy Expo, and Dog the Bounty Hunter was just like it was a slow show, and I mean he was just out and about. He got a tattoo. He was just interacting with everybody. Like we ran into him like 7 or 8 times like at the show, and then just remember afterwards like we just ate. We lived at Wawa. To avoid convention food, and then we just ran into him there. And I'm just like, okay, cool. Like this
on the way back to the room after the convention, getting dinner, he was sitting there. He got ice cream or something like that. Somebody
it's just like this is the regular for the weekend. We're just gonna run into Dog the Bounty Hunter everywhere.
It's not con related, but I bumped into John Cena at the gas station once. Had no clue it was even him. I just
you couldn't see him?
I couldn't see it. That's how I knew it was him. I couldn't see him. No, I was just pumping gas. We were in Land O'Lakes, and he lives up in that area. And some guy pulled in with this like lime green Lamborghini, and everyone was looking at the car. Nobody was looking at him. Some guy was even like, "Hey, nice car, man." And he drove off, and I was like, "That guy looked familiar," but I couldn't place it. And like later, I Googled it, and I saw a picture of John Cena in front of that Lamborghini, and I was like, "Oh my god, that was John Cena!" It was like, "Hey, man, nice car." And that's John Cena. I was like, "All right, cool," but. Yeah,
I said we had a pretty cool one. We had a pretty cool one in Savannah. Well, I did anyway. Todd had walked away at the time. It was just before the show. Todd had walked away to go to the bathroom or something like that. And we were sitting there, me and two other buddies, and Flash Gordon walked. He walked around, came to the table. He's like, "Hey, what's going on, guys? What is this?" And kind of explained to me. He's like, "Oh, that's really cool. Good job. Well done." So he was. I realized he was extra tall. He was like 6'4", 6'5".
He's a big dude.
My God.
Well, so he was doing that a lot though, because y'all met him that one day. I met him the following.
Yeah.
So, yeah, he was super cool though. He was good.
Well, I'm not gonna let y'all outdo me. I met Kevin Storbo.
Oh yeah.
There you go.
Yeah. Sure did. And I also met the guy Buck Rogers who played Buck Rogers. So There you go. I don't care. John Cena, and we saw X-Pac the other weekend.
Oh yeah, you were.
Oh, nice.
How'd that show go? How'd that show go? I forgot you did that one.
Yeah, it went really good. Like I told you, you know what I'm saying? You was my favorite hype guy, you know what I'm saying? Because I kept getting text messages from Todd, like, you got this, man. I was like, fuck yeah, Todd, you know, I do, man. You know, so he kept sending me the hype stuff, man. And I would admit, man, the Central Florida Comic-Con, man, was awesome. And I already signed up for it next year because we always do pretty good right there. And my advice to you, Todd and Nick, that would be a good spot for you guys too, sir.
That is a good one. I've done that a few times. That
was real good. And it's spacious. It's not, you're not cramped in, stuff like that. And it's good. The flow is good and everything. So yeah, you're not jammed back to back with somebody like, you know, like at some of the cons you do, that if you sneeze, the other person will come around and wipe your nose, bless you, because you're so close to them. But no, that one's the Central Florida Comic-Con is a good one, man. Really good. We did really great that weekend, and I have no complaints. I'll be back there in 2024.
Yeah, that one's growing. That one seems like it's just every year they level up and do better. So I don't know. We'll see. It's always in January.
Yeah.
So it's just, I don't know. It's kind of, for timing wise with us, it just, I have to admit, when I pick shows, it's kind of like, okay, cool. You know, like what's going to work timing wise with the family? What's going to do this? What's going to do that? So it's not always like, okay, cool. I just really want to go hit the show. It's got to like meet certain criteria. And so in January, I think the only way I could really get away with it is it's pretty close to like my in-laws' house. So I'll turn it into like a family weekend and just happen to go like run and get Dunkin' Donuts for like 8 hours on Saturday and Sunday or something. We can make it work out. We'll figure out what's going on.
I want to hear about that trip to Dunkin' Donuts when you get back Sunday afternoon at 4 o'clock.
They were really, really, really busy.
Yeah.
Long line at Dunkin', and I just got my donut. Where's the bag? Oh, I left it in the car.
Yeah, I ate the donut already.
They messed up our order 2 or 3 times.
They messed up our order on Saturday, so I had to go back Sunday early that morning and get it. Yeah, that sounds about right. That will match up perfect.
Yeah, that would go great.
Look, I'll send you a text message to cheer you up. You got this, Todd. Go ahead, baby. You can do it. You're doing great. Just hit me up. Let me know how the donuts are going.
Yeah, so that's how Todd died.
Well, at least we're in a cabin.
Yeah, I wasn't camping. So,
Oh man.
So what do we got coming up next, Evan? What's you mentioned obviously working on the sequel for After Death. Is that kind of the big thing you're focused on? Is there another project coming out? What do you got?
Yeah, that's the big one that I'm working on right now. I've got a personal goal. I never really like set New Year's resolutions or anything like personally, but I always do for my writing. And this year I'm trying to finish writing 3 books this year. You know,
Okay.
not necessarily publish them, but I want to write 3 full books this year. So I've got After Death 2 is what I'm working on right now. I got this other book idea that I got from a friend who texted me this like Reddit post, this like really long Reddit post of this like creepy thing that happened to this girl and her neighbor. And I was like, that'd make a really good book. So that's probably the second one. And then I don't really have a third book yet, but I'll figure it out along the way. But yeah, right now After Death 2 is really all I'm working on, focused on. So
Yeah. Well, I'll tell you this: if you want to write a novel about a guy who tries to attend a Comic-Con but ends up trying to lie about he's going to Dunkin' Donuts for 2 days and his wife kills him, feel free.
Don't call it the donut effect.
The donut effect is right here.
The donut effect. Consequences of too much sugar. There you go.
Todd's bad decisions. I like that though, man. I think that's a good goal, and I think having those goals and again trying to push forward with it, I think that's really cool. How do you kind of structure, like, whenever you're like, how do you set aside your time? So again, I mean, you work full time, you have 2 kids, you're married. There's a lot to this when you're trying to do this as a side hustle. So how do you kind of set aside your time to like write? Like, you obviously mentioned being on a trip and kind of coming up with a couple ideas and writing that down. But obviously you can't sit down and just like write then and there. Like you've got to kind of like, how do you do it?
Yeah, I used to be all over the place. I still am kind of with how I do it. I kind of write whenever I get a chance to. If I come home and nobody else is here yet, I'll try and get a few words down. On the weekends, late at night, I'll try and get some words in. But this year I discovered a new site it's called pacemaker.press, and it's a way to like track your word counts. And it's really cool. What it does is you give yourself a goal. I want to have my book done and by this date, how many words the book is going to be. And then it calculates how many words you need to write a day in order to meet your goal. And if you don't write that day, it kind of tells you, oh, you ruined your streak today, and it keeps track of how many days in a row you've written. So it kind of keeps me accountable. So that's kind of like my new thing. I'm using that to keep myself on track. And it's not even crazy. If you want to write like a 60,000 word novel in 3 months, you don't have to write 1,200 words a day. You can write like 300-400 words a day, and after 3 months, you've got 60,000 words. So it's very doable. And 300 words, it's probably like 45 minutes of writing depending on your mood, but it's not hard to do. It is possible. So That's been my new thing. I've only been doing it for about a month now, so I'm not, it's not set in stone yet, but I'm still kind of working on it. But yeah, whenever I can, which, with 2 kids, a wife and everything, it's tough.
Yeah. Again, I'll one of the things I've been trying to do is kind of set aside like certain nights. Like it's just like, okay, cool. Like, Tuesday night, Thursday night, like, I'm going to write for, 2 or 3 hours and just kind of sit down, and whether or not I end up writing, whether or not I just end up, doing something for the book. Cause there's a lot more to it than just writing it, right? It's the marketing side of it. Like you do all of it. So, it's just kind of doing that stuff. And I found that when I started providing kind of more structure to it, and I knew like, okay, cool, I had this evening and I had this evening that I was going to work on it, I did better about not always constantly feeling like I had to be doing it. So I don't know about you, about Swerve, but like I kind of always feel like there's something I need to be doing, and or I need to be writing, or I need to be doing this. I'm behind on this, or whatever. When I started setting aside time, I just started finding that it was better to kind of stay on top of that. I want to get rid of that anxiety a little bit, because I knew like, okay, cool, I'm going to have this window to do it. Now on the other side of that, I cannot tell you how many times it's happened where I've gotten, it's like Tuesday night, and it's like 9 o'clock, and it's like, all right, cool, time to write. And I'm just like, I am so freaking tired. Like I have no energy whatsoever. I end up like maybe writing for 30 or 45 minutes, and I'm like, all right, I'm going to bed.
Yeah.
So what about you? What do you do?
Say that again.
I was going to say, what about you, Swerve? How do you structure yours?
Well, first I get 2 boxes of donuts from Dunkin' Donuts, and
takes 2 days. Saturday and Sunday.
That's 2 days. That's 2 days of writing right there. So
January.
No, but me, it's like most of the time when I'm sitting at work, I jot down a lot of stuff, or if I like you said earlier, when you want to change some things, if I come up with something better, if I seen something that would give me a good cliffhanger or something like that, I'll just jot my stuff down while I'm at work, and I like have a whole bunch of like little notes with me and stuff. And then when I come home, I have to do what I call a brain dump. I have to immediately type it all out. It might be misspellings. It might be just not cohesive and stuff, but I have to do a brain dump. And then I'll later on come back, say like, I do most of my stuff on the weekends. I'll come back or stay up like that Friday night when I get off. I'll stay up till early that Saturday morning, and I just lay it all out and start straightening it all out, and it starts making even more sense and stuff. But that's basically how I do a lot of my writing and stuff. I brainstorm it out first, and if I come up with different ideas, or if I hear something or I see something, I can bring it in and make it pop more because I love to doing the cliffhangers, and I like putting different kinds of twists in there. Not so many that it's be like, oh, another twist, but something that'll make you be like, oh, snap, I didn't think about that, So I like my stuff to be all together, but yet it can stand on its own. But if I put something in there that make you think back to another book or earlier in the book, I like to have stuff like that. But it all comes down to just straight brainstorming, and then I do that brain dump, and then I just sort it all out. And to me, it makes sense. So that's how it works for me. For some people, that might be
Yeah.
chaos. I call it organized chaos. So.
Well, everyone has a different strategy, and that's why I like asking because every writer, I swear to you, every time I've asked a writer, like everybody's just different. Everyone's got a different approach to it, and their approach seems to usually work for them. But also sometimes, you'll get that one little bit that kind of takes you to the next level, and you're like, oh crap, like yeah, this works great. Like adding this like really helped me level it up. So I just always like to ask. Aaron's in the comments. He's like, he sends screenshots all day. What do you think, bro? Aaron, I've gotten those screenshots too. My answer is always it's freaking awesome because it always is. So, all right. Well, we're getting into the last 15 minutes of the show. So let's do one more shout out to our sponsor of Gray Ghost Comics. New comics coming out on Tuesday and Wednesday. Go check out our boys Andrew and Scott in Tipton, Georgia. Check them out. Like I said, Scott's going to be doing a variant cover for Sheldor the Defender. Which the Kickstarter is going to launch sometime next week. Whenever I hit launch, we'll figure it out. It's going to happen. We'll go from there. So big shout out to Grey Ghost. We love those guys. Evan, if you are ever in the area and want to go do a signing up in Tipton, they have an absolute amazing clientele, amazing staff. Just we've gone and done events there twice now, and both times, I mean, just blew it out the water again. Great people, just great store. It's growing so much. It's awesome. So
that's cool.
So you ever make it up in the area, you let us know and I'll put you in touch with them again. Awesome guys.
Hey, we'll do. I appreciate that.
So, all right, we are getting into the last 15 minutes. Thank you for all the people that have joined us and have hung around. We appreciate you, helping us grow and commenting, and we'll appreciate any and all feedback too as we make this better and get into it. So, guys, again, we're in our last 15. What do we want to chat with Evan about? Like, get into, what haven't we learned yet?
Well, Evan, I got one. So, when you're writing your stuff, I was gonna ask it before, but have you ever found yourself writing multiple stories at one time? Where you're writing one book and then you're jotting your stuff down and you're like, oh wait, I really want this for this. So then you're writing your other book and you end up finishing or getting close to finishing one book before the other. How often does that ever happen, or how often does that happen?
Oh yeah, definitely. I think I started last year. I started 3 or 4 different books, and then chapter 2, I quickly abandoned them because I got a better idea, and I was like, I want to work on this. I'll come back to that. And then 2 chapters in, I was like, oh, I have another idea for another book. Push that one aside, started writing the next one, and by the 4th book, I'm like, what am I doing? I gotta pick one. I do that a lot. It's so hard because like you're super excited about the one story you're writing now, then this really cool idea pops up, and you don't want to like lose that momentum. You don't want to like wait 4 or 5 months and be like, well, I'm not as excited about that story now as I was 4 months ago. But if you stop, you're not as excited about the story that you were writing. So, but yeah, it happens all the time. I'm usually good about suppressing that feeling and just going, nope, it's got to wait. I got to work on this book first. But like I said, I got through like four rounds of chapter 2s on like 4 different books last year. It's so easy to do.
Well, the beginnings are great, right? Like writing the beginnings are just easy and fun and exciting. And then you, like you said, you kind of get in there and you're like, oh, wait, where am I going from this? And you think about another beginning, you're like, oh, let me go do that. Like, okay, cool. Let me go put that idea on. So, yeah, I get that. I've been there.
I don't know. Me, I like writing either my action scenes or my horror scenes because a lot of times I could already visualize how I want the fight to go or that action scene or that horror scene to go. So I'll write that all the way out, and then I'll be like, now I have to tie that into this other part to make that make sense. So I focus a lot on the horror scene that's going to be the eye popper, this thing's going to get you to focus into the book and be like, oh, wow. Or I will focus on that action scene that's going to make the book pop and be like, oh, that's bad. You know what I'm saying? I like that how you did that. But then after that, to me, the rest of it's like just connecting words. I want to take that beginning and put it to that first action scene. Take some more words, connect it to the next action scene or next dramatic scene that needs to give you more information to make the story flow for you. So a lot of times in my head, when I write, I can give you basically how I want the book to end and the big scenes in the middle and, how it flows up to it. But sometimes it just flows. I'll start writing and it'll just flow all the way out. And then sometimes I have all the action scenes or the horror scenes done. I'll be like, now I got to put all this stuff together.
Make it make sense.
That's where the dialogue comes in. You're like, all right, cool, I got this. No, it's funny. I'm kind of the opposite. Like for me, like I'll go in and I'll write it, and then I'll get to the fight scene, and I'm literally just like fight scene, and then I just go on and I keep writing the rest. And or if there's like important dialogue in the fight scene, I'll like write that or whatever. But like for the most part, I just kind of I don't know. Again, I'll ditch that and then come back, and I'll add in the details and add in like. I don't know. Like I feel like I'm in one mood to write most of it, and then I got to get in another mood to go back and write like the fight scenes or, those crucial parts.
Yeah, it's funny because I used to be that way. It used to be like the action scenes or the horror scenes were like my thing. Everything else was like just leading to it. But now I think my favorite thing to do is just like conversations. Just two people having a conversation on the page is like. When it really starts to flow and it really starts to sound like a real conversation, like I always take a moment. I'm like, oh man, I am so good and I'm loving what I'm doing. Like that's what gets me excited. And it could just be the dumbest thing. It could just be two characters just chit chatting to get to the next part. And I'm like over here, like I'm so excited. I'm like flowing. Yeah, it's weird. And then I get to the action scenes and I'm like, all right, how do I want him to look? I don't know. I'll figure it out. I don't know. It's weird. It's so weird.
Oh, I get it. There's some dialogue I wrote in my first book. And, it was like some of the early dialogue. I mean, it was in like the first like 10 pages. And they were doing, there's a scene with like a vendor. So like it's a father and son having a conversation with a vendor. And the most comfortable part of writing it for me was writing the vendor. Cause I'm in sales for a living. So like I was having him like, be this salesperson. And so I'm writing his dialogue, and it's basically like our conversation at work. And and I remember showing it to one of my friends at work, and he's reading it, and he goes, "Oh, that's you." He's like, "You're the that's why you got like." And I told him like, "Oh, you're right." But yeah, it was like that was how I wrote it. So like, I ended up having to go back and change it. That way, it didn't sound as much like completely like me. But I mean, yeah, I was the vendor whenever I wrote it. Oh. All right, so we're getting in towards the end of it here. Evan, one of the things I always like to ask people is, what's some advice that you have for anybody who's out there who's trying to make it happen, who's kind of like where you were back when you started at the very beginning. What's that advice that you would give for them that's either going to save them time, help them overcome maybe an obstacle or two, or maybe just share from again something you learned along the way. What do you want to put out there?
Sure, yeah. I think. As far as advice for if you want to write, all you got to do is write. You gotta carve out that time. You got to sit down and you got to write. Doesn't matter if it's good. It doesn't matter if it's bad. You gotta write it, and then you can go back and you can change it. You can edit, and you got to think that you got to write or create what you want to see. If you're writing something because you think it's going to sell well, then it's probably not going to sell well. You gotta write something that you're excited about.
Yeah.
But then I would also say when it comes to like progress, how well you're doing, it's all about perspective. Like I told you that story about that author that I met at Comic-Con, and I was like, oh, maybe one day I'll be at Comic-Con, and then like 3 years later, there I was. And then something so simple as not selling enough that weekend could make me feel like, oh man, I'm a terrible author. I'm not selling my books, whatever. But 3 years ago, or 3 years prior to that date, me knowing that I was going to work at Comic-Con in 3 years, like I would have been like so incredibly excited. And I wouldn't care if I sold one book or 30 books. I would have been like, I did it. I made it. I'm at a Comic-Con. I did. So it's something I try and do all the time. I try and stop and take perspective. If I have like a low sale month where I'm like, I didn't sell that many books this month, I try and stop and go, yeah, but here are some of the milestones that I have reached. And 7 years ago, I would be excited where I am now. So perspective is definitely something to focus on. You've got to take a look at where you've come from so you can appreciate where you are, because it's so easy to fall into that trap of, oh man, I'm not doing well, not getting any reviews, I'm not getting no one's buying my books, I did a show and I didn't really sell very well. It's easy to talk yourself out of how successful you've become. So perspective is definitely number one for me.
Well, that's just great life advice in general. I feel like that can be applied to a lot. But I completely agree, and I am somebody that needs that as well sometimes because I'll kind of get caught up in the moment at shows and this or that or whatever. And even I was talking with Sam earlier today, and for me it's one of those things where like I'll be at home for the weekend or something, and I'll see like one of somebody I consider a peer or something at a show, and I'm like all of a sudden like I have this anxiety of like I should be at that show. Why didn't I apply for that show? What's going on? And I have to it takes like 5 minutes to work back through it, and it's like no, like you're not at that show. Like you're here, you're enjoying time with your family, like relax, calm down, like it's fine. You're not supposed to be at a show every weekend. Like you go rock out the shows when you're there, but other than that, like
supposed to be getting donuts.
What's up?
Supposed to be getting donuts for 2 days.
Yeah.
You're not supposed to be at that show.
That's January, baby.
So come down and try Dunkin' Donuts in Central Florida. They're awesome. They taste anywhere else.
Right in January, like you're good to go. So, all right, what do you guys got for Evan?
Evan, I just want to say it was great to meet you. Believe it or not, I've listened to you. I learned from you a lot from what you said because I am just like you said. My college teacher told me the same thing. She said, if you want to be a writer, you just get up and you write.
Yep.
You say your editor takes care of everything else. She says, but if you want to be a writer, you get up and write. And I mean, I started just like that, just writing and stuff like that. But what you said was great information, and I will add that to my repertoire. And one day I'm going to be like Todd. I'm going to be great, and I will love Dunkin' Donuts from Central Florida.
That is the goal. That is the goal.
Be
like Todd and love Dunkin' Donuts. That's
Todd and Dunkin' Donuts from Central Florida.
Hey, look, y'all say what you want, but I was at Dunkin' Donuts on Saturday morning. My daughter loves donuts, and I do too, so it's all good. But I will tell you this, okay? So best piece of advice I can offer when it comes to if you decide to ever take your child to Dunkin' Donuts before her dance class, it's a bad idea. Bring lots of wipes.
She probably danced faster than all the other kids until she phased out of frequency with our universe and started vibrating and shit.
Dude, oh man, we were just chilling like right before, and I'm in the little lobby area, and I mean she's just running in and out of the room and coming back and doing this. And like I had cleaned her up because I mean she just like had like chocolate frosting all over her face, and like so I cleaned off all the evidence and everything. And, but I mean, she was just wired. Everyone was just like, "Oh, she's hyper today," and I'm like, "Yeah, I don't know what's up. She must have got a good night's sleep." So don't get at least made for a very very entertaining dance class. I will say that. Nick, you got anything left?
I do. Evan, leave us with your favorite pop. I see a bunch of them behind you. What's your favorite one?
Oh my God! Well, that's not even. I've got them all over the walls. I've stopped buying them because I have too many. But my favorite, I don't know if I can choose. There's too many. Let's see. I don't know. There's too many of them. I don't know. You can't see them; they're out of frame. I have all the James Bond Funko Pops too and everything. Actually, you know what? I think I would choose any one of my Lord of the Rings Funkos over here. That's. I don't know if you can see them, but.
Good choice.
Yeah, I've got. I'll grab this big guy right here. The Balrog from Lord of the Rings.
Oh man,
that's creepy looking.
Yeah,
that's cool.
Yeah, he's huge. So, yeah, I've got too many, so I stopped buying them.
I don't think there's such a thing.
Good. Yeah, on your part. Yeah. I mean, I agree with Nick. I don't know if there's such a thing, but I know my wife's favorite pop Funko is the Joey Fatone signed one that she has, which was from the Comic-Con that we 2021, I think. So yeah, fun times. All right. Well, hey, so Evan, I put your link here in the comment. So your website, which is all the way up at the top here, evanbondauthor.com. What is your what's the socials? What's the at?
It's at Evan Bond Author on everything: Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, all of it. So
man's all organized. Give him a follow, give him a like, show him some love. because
I believe we'll also have them down in the description too, right?
Yeah, we should do that. You know, we're going to be organized. We're going to get it. We got the website this time, though. We're improving. This is leveling up from the last try at this. So, Evan, man, I just thank you so much for coming on and hanging out with us tonight. Really enjoyed it. Swerve, Nick, buddy, love you guys. Everyone who joined us during the live. At some point, we were in the 30s, which is just really freaking cool. Love you all. Appreciate you all. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Next Sunday with another amazing author to talk. So please come back, hang out with us again. We're going to make this thing a thing. So thank you all, and I think we're signing off. Have a great one.
Bye.